She was the greatest to ever do it, but she was banned and shunned by the public for over 20 years. This is the story of Tonya Harding. Basically, in a nutshell, Tonya Harding pretty much grew up with nothing except her undeniable talent on the ice. She had an extremely rough upbringing that was brought onto her by multiple people in her family. She didn't grow up with a lot of money. She started ice skating at just 3 years old. Despite going on to being extremely successful in her field, she couldn't afford any of the clothes that she was competing in, so she had to make it all by hand by herself. Unlike her competitors who got to buy really nice, flashy ice skating outfits. And the judges just were not favorable to her because they even docked her for it because they felt like she didn't look super polished in the way that they wanted her to. They really did not treat her fairly at all. Despite not being as polished as her competitors, she would go on to win numerous medals and awards. And she even became a 2-time Olympian, which is unheard of from someone of her background that came from quite literally nothing. And she's mostly known for the first woman ever to do a triple axel in an American competition, which was a huge deal at the time and even today. Only a couple of people since then have successfully done this. In 1994, the entire world of ice skating would come to a complete halt when Nancy Kerrigan was practicing for the nationals. A man came up to her and whacked her in the knee with a baton, and then he just runs off. And it was crazy, y'all, because this thing was all on recording. I mean, they quite literally saw her being filmed for something, like doing her practice, and he still went ahead and did it, knowing that cameras were rolling. While the attack was not caught on camera, right after this, she would be grabbing her knee saying, why? And it's basically a clip that everybody has seen over and over again. Now, for those of you who don't know, Nancy Kerrigan is pretty much the opposite of Tonya Harding. Like I said, Tonya was a little rough around the edges, and she was not as presentable in a lot of people's eyes as opposed to Nancy Kerrigan. Nancy Kerrigan was very polished. She always had her hair slicked back in a bun. She had like flashy outfits and stuff like that. But despite what a lot of people believe, Nancy actually didn't grow up rich either. Her father worked like 3 jobs to support her ice skating. An investigation would immediately be launched, and the FBI says the attacker is 22-year-old Shane Stant. And this man was actually caught because somebody had heard him bragging about the incident, and so they put an anonymous tip to the police. Shane was paid just $6,800 to whack Nancy's leg. Now, in between this is happening, and while they're still investigating and trying to connect all of the dots, Nancy and Tonya are both gearing up for the Olympics, and they are able to compete. This is obviously after Nancy's knee heals. After the Olympics, police and media discovered that Tonya's husband and bodyguard were involved in the incident. From that moment on, it was pretty much over for Tonya. No matter what she said, people were always going to view her a certain way and see her as guilty just by association. And remember, y'all, she's also not America's ideal ice skater, so they're really looking to get rid of her in any way they can. She had no idea that the career she worked for so hard and tirelessly since she was 3 was about to be ripped away from her forever. The media automatically blamed and villainized her. The media basically said, girl, you already know that you had something to do with it, and we already know that you did it because, like, obviously you asked them to do it kind of thing. Her husband would later go on to take a plea deal and said that Tonya was involved. Now, a lot of people didn't know this until way later, but Tonya's husband is very unhinged, and he's not like a good member of society. He's done a lot of really horrible things that the media did not know about at that time, so they pretty much took his word for it. On March 16th, 1994, Tonya would get in trouble with the law after not snitching because she knew the details after the incident. For me personally, I would not have snitched either because it's not like Nancy had a broken bone and she was unable to skate for the rest of her life. It wasn't like that at all. I'm not saying what happened to Nancy was good by any means, but I feel like if Tonya would have came out and said, yeah, my husband did it, people would have still looked at her the same as they look at her now. And also, Nancy quite literally like had an injury to her knee. It got better and it was fine. Like, she went on to ice skate and it was fine. If no one knew the connection that it had to Tonya, it would have been fine, like, in my opinion. But I know that not everyone's going to agree with that. But I don't feel like it was necessary for Tonya to snitch to the police about who did it, because that has nothing to do with her. She didn't do that. Tonya Harding was then stripped of her titles, had a $100,000 fine, 500 hours of community service, and was banned to ever ice skate again in any competition, ending her career for good. The people that were involved did serve prison time for this. Just nearly 25 years later, The movie I, Tonya comes out, and everyone understands that Tonya actually didn't plan it and didn't have as much to do with it as people thought. After the movie comes out, Tonya does explain that she did hear someone saying something along the lines of, yeah, and we're gonna take someone out of the competition and make sure that she gets in it. And she claims that she said, like, what are you talking about? But they had never, according to Tonya, explicitly said, we are going to do this to Nancy's knee so she cannot get picked by the Olympic team and you can, which is so crazy in hindsight because both of them were in the Olympics. Like, I get it, stakes were high back then, but it's crazy that they did all of that for no reason because both of them got picked to be in the Olympics. Shane, the man who did the attack, even admits he doesn't know if Tonya knew and that no one said to him, Tonya wants you to do this, in his first interview ever. Nancy's reputation has been kind of wishy-washy since this happened because there have been a couple of clips that came up of her online that didn't show her in the best light, and a lot of people see her as like a snobby prima donna. Like, they just don't like Nancy's attitude in general.
Listen carefully to the off-camera voice that has to tell her to smile, honey.
Smile, honey.
What's this for?
Well, this is going to be uplinked to most of the stations across the country. They're eager to hear about you.
Do we have an attitude problem here?
We just wanted to welcome you back.
During a parade, Kerrigan complained to Mickey Mouse. It's so corny, so dumb. I hate it. The most corny thing I've ever done.
Tonya is now a respected athlete again, and then Shane is a business owner who says that he is way different now and has changed so much. He goes on to say that it's actually a good thing that he got caught. As far as Tanya's ex is concerned and her bodyguard, they've pretty much like faded into the background again, and that's pretty much where we are today. After that, Tonya would go on to do, I think, boxing, and she was also like a comedian, but it's just so crazy how like the movie is so opposite of what like happened in real time. Like, in real time, everyone was so sure that she planned it or that she knew about it. Let me know what y'all think of this down below.